newspaper as well about attacks on people that own Bitcoin and crypto. So if we tried to spread the word, because I always talk and try to share it, and as Bitcoin goes up in value, you don't want to be the only one in the village that owns Bitcoin. And but at the same time, as you talk about it more, you could potentially, as the value gets a lot more valuable, you could potentially be putting your family, friends at risk. And I just wonder your thoughts around that.
Yeah, I have many thoughts around that, and that is a fear that has been around since forever in the Bitcoin sphere. And remember that everyone is a FUD salesman. Anyone selling anything really is selling FUD. If I'm selling orange juice, I sell you the fear of that if you don't drink my orange juice, you will be less satisfied in the future. So any good or service is really just FUD. And especially when it comes to Bitcoin security, that's all FUD. It's all like, you need this hardware wallet to be safe, you need this multi-sig solution to be safe, you need this and that, blah, blah, blah. So everyone telling you, look at what the people fear-mongering are selling. Like if they're selling something that has to do with Bitcoin security, they have an incentive to amplify that message and make the threats seem more severe than they are. Now there are plenty of fiat-rich people in the world, and it's pretty easy to figure out who owns what. So it's pretty easy to attack a billionaire in fiat land too. It doesn't have to be a quote-unquote crypto billionaire. Like, sure, there's some risk, but in general, it's easier to steal physical possessions than to steal information. Because of the simple fact that if I point a gun to your head and say, give me all your Bitcoins, you don't have to give me all your Bitcoins, because I, the attacker, cannot possibly know how many Bitcoins you have. And that's true today for every single person in the world. I have no idea how many Bitcoins another person has. I can only make an educated guess. And if I point a gun at your head and you've done your Bitcoin security practices properly, you can give me a fraction of your Bitcoin and say that this is all I have. And if I shoot you, no one gets the Bitcoin. And the entire network gets, the Bitcoins get scarcer, number goes up, everyone else in Bitcoin is more powerful. So yeah, you, the individual, might have a higher risk of being attacked, but the organism, the network, grows stronger with every attack. We're a fucking Hydra. That's what we are.
Hey, okay, thanks a lot for nuts. That's it, yeah? Okay, thanks a lot for everything. And what would you like to say, last thing, before we get our next speaker on?
Last word?
Last word.
Spadoinkle is my last word. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we're going to have British Hoddle on. Okay, he's zooming in. He's in Dubai. He's going to zoom in from Dubai. And he's going to light the place up a little bit, yeah? So, Dinny's just doing something there. And get it on the screen in a second. Are we on? Just to let you know as well, the lunch break, we're doing book signing inside, yeah, for the hour, just to take the pressure off a little bit from the restaurant. And there's a workshop as well on at lunchtime, right, from 1 to 2. Okay, and there we go. We have you on there. Can you see us? Can you see me? Can you see Dinny? Turn on your camera. Okay. Hello there. Welcome, British Idol. So we're gonna just introduce you and take it away, yeah? There you go.
Let's go.
Okay. Okay, so you just want to start talking about what we're going to talk about, and then we'll do a few questions and answers, yeah? So 20 minutes, light them up, tell them why they need Bitcoin and what's going on out there, yeah?
Excellent. Firstly, thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here with everyone. I apologize I couldn't fly in. It was too short notice, so I apologize for that. But I come with a message and a warning, and I think that this message and warning is extremely important for anyone who is not only buying and owning Bitcoin, but is thinking about it and owns other assets. And that's the key thing here. The message of Bitcoin is not just for people that own Bitcoin, it's for people that own other assets. That's when my story started, right? My story started when I realized that my parents, who are immigrants to the United Kingdom, that have done the right thing for 35 years, built a property portfolio for their 2 sons, are about to be rugged, and their property portfolio is about to be worth less than what they imagine because of this birth of this new asset.
Recording in progress.
And what Bitcoin really solves, hands of the very few, the very many are spending their life. That's what you're doing. It's very important to understand that. This is a very serious topic. I appreciate all the happy hippie stuff that goes on about Bitcoin, but the reality is this is a very serious topic because you are sharing your blood, sweat, and tears for an energy exchange. You are giving your value, your life, to someone, and they're giving you dollars, they're giving you euros, they're giving you pounds, they're giving you yen, they're giving you any currency that you can imagine for the exchange of your life. And what Bitcoin solves is that the first time in human history, it's actually finite. This has never happened any time in human history before. We had to not only work your blood, sweat, and tears, and then you have to become a professional investment manager in order to keep the value that you've already given out. That is a crime against humanity, and it must be registered as one, but guess what? I have a feeling it won't be. The good news is that at least we have Bitcoin to protect that human energy that each and every single one of us is putting out there in our way. Bitcoin can save that human energy for people and give them a fighting chance at protecting it, not just for themselves, because if you're like my parents, you're not holding Bitcoin just for yourself. You're not holding real estate just for yourself. You're not building a business just for yourself. We have been taken advantage of and forced to exchange our energy for these assets that anyone can print. How many people here are in control of how many properties get built in Ireland? None of us. I'm not in control of how many properties get built in the United Kingdom. Therefore, somebody else can rug pull the value, the scarcity that my parents have bought real estate in, right? They bought real estate because it's a scarce asset. Bitcoin is the first time that nobody can rug the value that you are owning. And that's why it's extremely, extremely important. It's really, truly about the energy that is being protected and the energy conversion that's happened. Now, that is the past of Bitcoin. That is the purpose of it. We all understand that. Now we've got to really think about the present. Where are we right now? And right now, this is where things start getting dangerous, because I like the whole, hey, get to Bitcoin. And obviously, you know, if I'm humbled to know if any of you have heard my message of getting to 1 Bitcoin. But the reality is this. Everyone's saying that the institutions are coming, the institutions are coming. These people have got it all arse backwards. The institutions are here. They've been playing in this world since 2021. The CIO of BlackRock was on CNBC saying that Bitcoin could be a competitor for gold in 2021. Anyone who's saying that these institutions are coming is late. They're here, they're playing in the game, they're sharks in the ocean, and everyone is doing their happy hippie thing about doing DCAs and things like that. The reality is you need to convert as much energy as you want to protect to Bitcoin now, because you're behind the 8 ball. You are late. It's as simple as that. More people are not realizing this. You are absolutely late. When Michael Saylor, you know, I bought MicroStrategy the first day after they announced a Bitcoin treasury business plan. He's gone from $500 million to being given permission to dilute the stock $42 billion in order to buy Bitcoin. Conveniently, that happens after BlackRock gets in the game. BlackRock gets in the game. That was the change. I want everyone to remember this date, June 15th, 2023. That is when the landscape changed. That is the moment that this whole thing went to a new stratosphere. That is the date that BlackRock filed for their ETF. And if you think that Michael Saylor getting $42 billion of ATM ability and $42 billion of borrowing debt ability is like coincidental after BlackRock got in the game, you're naive. The game has completely and utterly changed. And what have we seen since then? We've seen the entire C-suite of the American government get behind Bitcoin. And if anyone here thinks that politicians are smart enough to read the Bitcoin standard and go, you know what, this is such a great idea, and what I'm going to do now is get every single one of my other co-senators to also get on board in a single year, you're naive. This is a game that's been set up. Bitcoin is the target, and they're going to get as much of it as they can. And you have one chance to do this, because you can't just build more property. You can't just launch more unicorns. This is a once in a species opportunity to own as much Bitcoin as humanly possible to you. And look, your country, my country, have been forced down a path of bad immigration policies, bad capitalism policies. Why? Because they control the money printer. We got fooled into thinking that our opinion is worth more than our financial power. That's a lie. Your opinion is not worth anything. The whole point of a democracy is that you get to express a vote, and that vote should mean something, so that you do not need to waste time expressing your opinion. And what we've experienced over the last 15 to 20 years is we've experienced a reality where we've been told that our ability to express an opinion is worth more than the amount of financial power that we have. Well, Bitcoin fixes that injustice as far as I'm concerned. You have to get the money, and Bitcoin is the best money. The people that are making the rules in the United Kingdom are the property owners and the land owners. In the future, the people that will be making the rules for the world are the Bitcoin holders. And in order to be a part of that, you've got to hold enough Bitcoin, which is why I turn on the jets as far as my content goes. And yeah, some people think my content's very aggressive. They don't like the message. They don't like how it's being delivered. I don't give a shit, because this is a once in a species opportunity for you to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible for your family. That's the only thing that matters. If you want your last name to matter in the world, you must hold as much Bitcoin as possible. And if you own real estate right now, you own business right now, you are going to be rug pulled, because the only way to keep the peasants happy in this world, because remember, we've gone from 1930s, the birth of like mortgages to a certain extent, then the 70s where they securitized mortgages, right? Which is what started this trend of this acceleration of real estate values until 2008, where the whole thing blew up. Why? Because they were depending on people to get mortgages. They were depending on people to push lending in order to get these dollars out there as quick as possible. With Bitcoin, they don't need to do that. They can print as much money as possible and shove it into Bitcoin. Nobody is going to be jumping out of a building. Nobody is going to be homeless. And most importantly, the voting class, the peasant class, will be happy, because housing is about to become very affordable. Unless you own prime real estate, housing is about to become very affordable. Why? Because I believe there's going to be a property price stagnation for normal properties, normal family homes. And over the next 15 years, as wages continue to climb, properties are going to become more affordable. That is a wealth tax on the average wealthy. And the average wealthy is like somewhere between $500,000 to $30 million net worth. Past 30 million, you go into the ultra high net worth. The ultra high net worth, they're over indexed on equities right now anyway. They're not in majorly in their portfolio in real estate. So the normal people that have got their net worth in real estate are about to get rug pulled. These are my parents. These are your parents. These are you guys. We are about to get rug pulled on the value of our property, and it's going to be, oh, the property value just stayed the same for 15 years. That's the rug pulling that's going to happen. So you've got to convert that energy, because, by the way, the person who securitized those mortgages was Larry Fink. And I'm not saying that he was like around. He was one of the key players in securitizing those mortgages and starting that trend of mortgage-backed securities, which led to the inflation of house prices, which is where the majority of wealth is stored. It's a $350 trillion worldwide asset. By the way, if Bitcoin goes up 100x from here, it's 50% of real estate. Think about how big this opportunity still is. So the next thing, again, the future of Bitcoin is institutional, sovereign, corporate, ultra high net worth acquisition. I'll tell you a funny story. I know a person who's worth $7 million. I know another person who's worth $250 million. Their assets are managed by the exact same bank in the US. The advisor, and this is blew my mind, the advisor who's advising the person with a $7 million net worth is not recommending Bitcoin. The advisor is advising the person with a $250 million net worth is advising a 14% allocation in Bitcoin. Make it make sense. The reality is this, they're going to skip out on that middle class. The middle class in terms of wealth is $500,000 to $30 million. This is going straight to the ultra high net worth, and you've got one opportunity to get it. There it is, one of the saddest things I saw, and it made me realize how badly I failed in my content. Last year in Q4, 600,000 to 900,000 Bitcoin moved from retail hands to institutional hands. This year, River put out this chart. This year, 250,000 Bitcoin have moved in the first quarter of this year from retail hands to institutional hands. They are going to take your Bitcoin at any cost. Why? Because they understand what I said. 100x from here is only 50% of the real estate market cap. This is not, they're not going after gold here. That's the pitch. Real estate's the target. Because this solves so many problems for unlimited money printing, you have no idea. That's why Bitcoin treasury companies are coming. That's why Michael Saylor's coming. That's why all of these people and all of these institutions and all of these facilities are here. I am today being offered lending from private banks. So it's high net worth lending, right? But I'm being offered today lending on my IBIT and MSTR positions at national central bank rates. If I want to borrow money in Swiss francs, I can do it at 1%. If I want to borrow money in the US dollar, I can borrow it at 4.5%. Today, that's happening right now. The US hasn't even opened yet. The OCC just confirmed that banks can custody Bitcoin. This is coming, but it's going to be a private banking solution. They are going to skip out on the middle class and they're going to go straight to the people who hold the most dollars. Why? Because unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, Bitcoin is a monetary network. It is not a human network. So I get all the happy, hippie, feel-good shit. But at the end of the day, how much you own is what's important. And as far as Larry Fink and everybody else in wealth management understands this, the amount of dollars that go into Bitcoin is what's important, not the amount of people. So they don't care. They don't care whether you end up with nothing. They don't care whether your children end up with 0 Bitcoin. They don't care. Why? Because it's a monetary network. One person with $1 billion is worth way more than 1 billion people with $1 to them. So you have, and I have, and everyone has one chance to get this right. Because otherwise, Bitcoin is going to enter this private banking space, and it's already happened in other parts of the world. It's now coming to the US. And it's now going to come to Europe and hopefully to the United Kingdom. We've been a bit slow over there, and to you guys as well. And I believe that they are going to incentivize you to give up your Bitcoin one way or another. And unfortunately, people are doing it. And you've got to choose to not be one of those people. You've got to choose to not buy that house. You've got to sit there and go, oh, I have this amount of Bitcoin. I want to buy this, and I've been holding for 8 years. Hold longer. Just one more cycle. Just hodl one more cycle. Why? Because look what we have now. 4 years ago, we did not have the ability to generate income from Bitcoin. Now there's income funds like MSTY and all these things that are monetizing volatility for you to do this. There are lending products that are coming. All of these facilities are coming because, again, Bitcoiners, one of the fallacies, in my opinion, that us Bitcoiners go through is we seem to think that Bitcoin is like brand new for the TradFi markets. It's not. TradFi already has the rails to understand what to do with Bitcoin, and they're salivating right now. They're salivating because you guys are giving up your Bitcoin for $100,000 when they know it's going to 13 million inside of 20 years. They're salivating because it's so easy. They didn't know it was going to be this easy, but they're salivating because everyone is giving up 1 million coins for nothing. Everyone is out here figuring out how to trade. Everyone is out here doing stupid things like buying Bitcoin, converting it to MSTR, and before that MSTR has made up the amount of Bitcoin per share that you just traded it for. They're selling it and buying MetaPlanet at a 5x MNAV, and then they're getting they're shitting themselves because the price of MetaPlanet collapses, so they sell that and buy back into the Bitcoin, except now they're down 60% on the net Bitcoin that they held. Bitcoin is the hurdle rate. That's the mindset that I want to share with everyone. Bitcoin is the hurdle rate. That is the minimum return that you should be focused on. Bitcoin is the new zero, and everything else is on top of that. Look, I want to get to as many questions as possible. The main point here is you have one chance. The institutions are here, and they will do everything they can to take your Bitcoin. Take this seriously. Stop the happy hippie shit. And understand that how much you own will determine the value of your last name.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we're going to run straight into questions. Great round of applause. Okay, anyone have any questions? Okay, stand up there. Do you want to stand up? Tego.
Yes. I don't know if he's the best person to ask, but I'm pretty new to Bitcoin. Just a couple of months, to be honest. But I'm struggling to find no KYC methods to buy my Bitcoin. I don't know if that's the right person to ask, but just put it out there.
There you go.
Look, everyone's focused on these no KYC, this, that, and the other. The only thing that matters is whether you hold the Bitcoin or not. So unless you've got, sources of income that we don't need to discuss on a public live stream that really matter for getting no KYC Bitcoin, I would much rather you just buy the damn Bitcoin, one way or another. Get the Bitcoin, get it into cold storage, secure your future, and then we can worry about all these other things. Because at the end of the day, everyone has these fantasies like, okay, I'm gonna have no KYC Bitcoin and then run from the government. They will put you in jail and keep you there for 30 years until you give up that Bitcoin. I don't care what any Bitcoiner says. They put you in jail. They snatch you away from your family and they say, give us this Bitcoin, you're gonna hand it over.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, another question here from
Patrick. Hey, British. I'm not clear. What are the 3 rules of Bitcoin?
I don't
that
know.
normally goes at the end, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'll remind you at the end.
He'll remind you at the end. Okay, we have another question here from Ty.
MSTR or IBIT in a traditional pension? Which one? Or both?
Yeah, I think you need a split of both. Like the way now we're going to talk about, very quickly talking about portfolio management. And portfolios are set up with 3 different buckets, right? You have savings, you have investments, you have income. And depending on what your net worth is, you have to balance out what it is. If you're not a millionaire yet, I think personally, in my opinion, is you should be focused 100% on growth. And that's what you should focus on, right? So look, I think if you've got, depending on your net worth levels, I think a 50% spot Bitcoin allocation, a 40% growth, i.e. MSTR allocation, a leveraged Bitcoin position, and then a 10% income position starts to make sense, but it really is individual.
Okay, we have another question here from Jimmy. Jimmy, you want to stand up?
Yeah, quick question. I'm curious for short-term question. In your best estimation, what's the current market's top going to be?
It doesn't matter. Look, this is all mental masturbation. The top doesn't matter because there's no bottom to the dollar, right? I don't understand why people are fascinated about what this. Look, here's the thing. I'm about to release a video, right? And it's going to be called the BlackRock Bitcoin Cycle, the BBC, right? Don't get your mind confused. So the BlackRock Bitcoin Cycle, I think, is going to be different. And all you've got to do to understand why it's going to be different is bring up the gold chart from 2004 when the GLD ETF, and my background's gold, right? So what happened when the GLD ETF came out was that all of this demand kept going into gold. And the only reason it stalled out in 2011 was because when you understand gold, it takes about 8 to 10 years for the miners to catch up with the increase in demand. So all this investment went into the miners in 2004, and by about 2010, they'd started digging up more gold out the ground and purifying it and selling it to people. So the difference is you can't do that with Bitcoin. So I think you're going to have a steady uprise for the next 10 to 15 years. I think there's a high possibility that the cycles have changed. And if you're sitting here going, you know, I want to time the tops here, I'm the wrong person to talk to because I'm permanently bullish.
That's it. Okay, another talk question here from Jeffrey.
Hi, British. So a lot of people who are hodling for a long time want to be able to access their wealth in some form or manner. What is your opinion on collateral-based Bitcoin loans?
Yeah, look, I think, again, the one advantage I have of being British Hollow is that I've never taken a single sponsor. I've never turned on monetization on YouTube because I don't need to. I can make any video I want. I can say exactly what I think is going to happen. And here's the reality of Bitcoin lending solutions. They're all shit, right? If you're paying 14% to borrow against your Bitcoin, firstly, they all talk about collaborative custody, which is a bunch of bullshit because at the end of the day, you're giving up custody of your Bitcoin. If you don't hold all the keys, you are giving up custody. They named it collaborative custody to make you feel better, but the reality is you don't have all the keys. So if you don't have all the keys anyway, why wouldn't you, depending on your net worth level, use something like IBIT and borrow against that at like a 5.5% rate instead of paying 14%. These, by the way, are all the tricks that TradFi will use to make you leak wealth. This is the problem here. Because if I can borrow money on my Bitcoin at 5.5% and you're paying 14.5%, my family, my last name will end up with more Bitcoin than you will because of the interest that you're paying. So these are very sneaky long-term TradFi games. It's why, you know, the wealthiest people in the world can borrow money at 1% and you can borrow money at 8%, and why they get richer than you, why they stay wealthier than you. This is it's an ingrained illusion that this is a good thing. You've got to be very careful here, and right now is the time to start paying attention to all this armory. Look, we have got, because of the securitization of Bitcoin, you are being given a new armory to protect your Bitcoin empire. And it's like, you know, it's like the US Army turning around and training all of their soldiers to use AK-47s and nothing else, right? You've got to learn how all of these other tools work, and they're coming into the game now. And I don't think any of those Bitcoin lending solutions are going to survive. I think they're going to be folded up very quickly because a 14% interest rate is ridiculous.
Okay, we have another question. Can you stand up there?
In your opinion, are the ETFs controlling the price of the Bitcoin?
Hang on. Just use this one.
I don't know what's wrong with that. In your opinion, are the ETFs controlling the prices of Bitcoin with the help of governments at the moment? Because based on the volume of Bitcoin the ETFs have bought, should the price not have gone sky high at this stage?
Yeah, look, one of the things I spoke about last year on my YouTube channel was that there's going to be a rotation of buyers, and this sort of happens every new step function that Bitcoin takes. And it's been a lot more than I thought it was going to be, right? I didn't realize that retail was going to sell Bitcoin at 100,000 and go buy holiday homes and things like that. But so much of this has happened. It's been a lot more than I thought it was going to be. Is there control? This is a whole conspiracy realm that we deal with. In the gold space, we sort of deal with this, with JP Morgan trying to control the gold. It's all bullshit. JP Morgan got sued, and they lost the battle for $30 million because they were spoofing the price, and it affected the price by 0.3% on certain days. Don't worry about the conspiracy of it. The beautiful thing about Bitcoin is it's all about supply and demand, and there's an absolute finite supply. So at some point when this rotation changes, you see it. As soon as the sellers leave the market, the price goes parabolic to the upside, and that is going to take time. Now, is there going to be games played by institutions to make sure that they can secure the most amount of Bitcoin? Absolutely. I would do the same thing. If I was an institution and I had the ability to control the price of Bitcoin and scare retail, I would do the same thing to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible. This game is ruthless. If you think everyone's out here just patting you on the back, hoping that you get as much Bitcoin as you want, you're naive. Everyone wants this scarce asset, and they don't care who else has some.
Yeah, so protect that Bitcoin and keep stacking. We've got a question here from Luis, and we've got one more then.
Okay, hey.
My question is, what would you recommend for people that usually doesn't know how to store their coins? Because you can create many different wallets, for example, and to send your Bitcoins, and this can protect yourself. But suppose that you die, okay? So you have many different ways as well to give some specific key phrase for your wife, your kids, or someone else, because this is something that you need to pay attention when you hold a huge amount of Bitcoin and all your money, all your source of income, you're putting everything there. So for those that doesn't know, what would you recommend?
I think you've got to look at multi-sig technology. I think Casa is a great company, and there's other great companies that provide support on how to create a reliable multi-sig and help walk you through it. But I think multi-sig is the way to go if you have a family structure that you're trying to work with.
Yeah, definitely. And we've got the Bitcoin advisors here as well, and Sell Money Solutions. Talk to them. Go outside there, Louise, to talk to them. Yeah. We've got another question over here. Just give me 1 second. Okay, change of plan. Okay. One more. Okay, over here, and then one more. Okay, one last one.
Hi. As the number of Bitcoin reward keeps halving, they get scarcer and scarcer, what's the incentive for the miners to keep going, or does that incentive eventually disappear?
Well, that's why the price has to keep going up to keep incentivizing the miners. There's a relationship here between the amount of supply that comes out and what the miners are able to do, and the price and the scarcity. So all of that gets taken care of in the amazing code that Satoshi Nakamoto blessed us with.
Okay, we've got the last question from Andrew, and then you can bring it in then after Andrew's question, okay?
Hi. Do you have an opinion on Michael Saylor and if he gets liquidated, and what are the implications if he does?
Yeah, look, so, a lot of people are not understanding what MSTR is doing. There is no price at which Michael Saylor can get liquidated on their Bitcoin. The Bitcoin is not secured against any debt that they have on the company. It is a remarkable thing that they've set up here. And as far as Michael Saylor goes, I'm blessed. I'm one of the people who probably had the most one-on-one time out of all the Bitcoin people with Michael Saylor, because in 2021 it was 4 of us, including him, that had dinner at his house for an evening. And look, one of, if not the smartest person and fast-thinking people I've ever met in my life, and probably will ever meet. That's my opinion on Michael Saylor. And by the way, the whole team's great. The whole team at Strategy is amazing. It's not just Michael Saylor running this. He's got a whole team there. They're all aligned. All the shareholders are aligned, and they've got an amazing, amazing setup.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thanks a lot for joining us. Do you want to wrap it up and tell people? Just wrap it up with something, and then we'll hand it over to you.
Yeah. Look, I want to wrap it up with a beautiful saying, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this. It's one of the sayings that I remember. It's a great blessing, and I hope it makes a lot of sense for you guys. Firstly, thanks for having me, Lawrence. I think it's been an honor, and apologies I couldn't be there. But I love this saying. It says, "May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, and the rains fall soft upon your field. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand." And ultimately, there are always only 3 rules to Bitcoin. Step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, you shut the fuck up. And step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy. Thank you for having me.
There you go. Thanks a lot. Give me a buzz. Okay, there you go. Thank you, British Huddle. And we'll catch up again soon, okay? Thank you. Cheers. Okay. A little bit of just a few minutes while we get set up here, and then Dinny's going to do a quick presentation regarding self-custody and multi-sig as well. Yeah, we were talking about multi-sig, how to custody your Bitcoin. So we're going to quick presentation here, and then we're going to go for lunch. Yeah. You can okay, lunch is open now if you want to go out. And then at lunchtime we're doing the book signing outside. So if you want to go out and grab a book and get the we've got 4 amazing authors over here. We've got Knuts came over. We've got Daniel Prince. with his book out there. We've got Chris McLaughlin, and we've got Paul as well, with his new book that's about to be released there, yeah? So they're going to be all outside there in a few minutes, okay? So well, get your book sorted, and then he's going to do a quick talk now. Okay, so how's everybody getting on? He's having a good time, he is? Yeah? Yeah? That's it. It's only starting. Don't forget about the after party later on tonight. We're going to stay in the hotel. We're staying here. We're having a crack. Loads of live music. And loads of Guinness flowing. And whiskey if you want as well. Till late. So don't forget as well, you get t-shirts outside there as well. And there's a swag shop out there. You can get, if anyone wants to buy a wooden spoon for their wives or something like that, their partners, a few chopping boards, Theo got them made out there. Go out and get them done. Remember, you can pay in dirty fiat, or else you can pay in Satoshis. Here we go, the Bitcoin advisor. Dinny, you can just take this one. Okay, here we go. Dinny Collins, let's go.
Howdy. Thanks, guys. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Bitcoin custody and Bitcoin inheritance, because it was mentioned. There's ideals and there's perfection, and then there's the real world. For 4 years now, I've been helping people to understand Bitcoin, to own more Bitcoin, helping them with the technical side of it, helping them to build their own bespoke Bitcoin pension, and helping them to get Bitcoin performance and the volatility of Bitcoin into their existing pensions. So I've real world experience of Bitcoin and how Bitcoin goes wrong. And a lot of the times the ideals that people have, they're simply not true. Fair enough, everyone in this room has possibly spent, a minimum of 20 hours, maybe 200 hours. Some people here have spent 1,000 hours or more studying Bitcoin. But every Bitcoiner and future Bitcoiner isn't going to do that and shouldn't have to do that to be able to partake in Bitcoin safely. So how I sort of came about with Peter and him explaining what they do at the Bitcoin Advisor and then becoming part of the team eventually, it bolts on perfectly to my existing business where we take people out of single sig, but then people reach a stage where one, either they have a hardware wallet hidden in their house with a silly amount of wealth on it that they wouldn't be comfortable keeping in cash, okay? Or they have to keep it off-site somewhere, so they have to trust wherever they're storing it doesn't look at their private key, which they can't tell if they do or don't. Or they die, or they just make a mistake, or they get phished. And all these things I've seen happen. Fortunately, never to any of my clients, but because I'm the go-to guy in Ireland, it's my phone that rings, I get the Facebook messages, I get the emails when there's 10,000 lost, 20,000 lost, 700,000 lost was my biggest. So pretty devastational to people. So the solution of multi-sig can add complexity to your custody. I'll just stick to my slides actually. Helping you buy and secure and manage your Bitcoin so you can own generational wealth without losing sleep anywhere in the world. Just a background, Peter Dunbar has been managing a multi-family office for 2 decades and people trust him with 2 billion of assets under management. Collaborative security, asset protection, inheritance planning track record for the last 9 years, and there hasn't been a single Satoshi lost, and we've taken 5 families through unexpected probate. And in any typical situation, because again I've had these phone calls, my brother at Bitcoin, my husband at Bitcoin, he had a heart attack there last year, his friend anyway, you can't recover it unless these things are thought of, prepared and set up ahead of time. But with the Bitcoin Advisor, we haven't lost a single Satoshi in 9 years, which is a pretty amazing track record because it's pretty amazing. Andy Patterson is co-founder. He's 30 years of technology and consulting experience, and the whole Bitcoin Advisor team is 35 strong now, and it's just experts. And it's brilliant for me to be able to lean on their expertise for various things that I might need to help. So instead of just custodying Bitcoin on your own, like so many people here probably you're the only Bitcoiner, you can't even orange pill your friends, so you're just here on your own, you've no one to talk about. If something goes wrong with your wallet, you're Googling stuff to try and find the information, so you're getting all the spam websites. We help you recover your Bitcoin. It's just like, you got scammed, we're going to scam you again, click this link. But like, normal people don't understand that. So by having a team of collective experts on your side to help you with your custody journey. So the mission is just to take Bitcoin off exchanges. So we actually know how much Bitcoin there really is. Like remember with FTX and the price suppression, that they didn't have all the Bitcoin that they said they had. So the Bitcoin had to come off exchanges, so we really know how much Bitcoin there is and its true value can't be manipulated. So we have to help people to be able to custody their Bitcoin themselves, okay? Without having to trust. Because there's a couple of ways you can custody Bitcoin. You can custody your Bitcoin. Like if I get a client and I know they can't even turn on a computer, never mind log on to a Zoom call, and they're not going to come to me, I'll be like, yeah, there's this app called Revolut, you can get Bitcoin. Bitcoin people here be like, what the hell are you doing telling people to do that? Well, because that's their only option. They can't do anything else, and that's better than nothing. So my motto is always progress, not perfection. That will get them started. When they see the number go up, they'll get more interested, they start to study. 3 years later, they're a Bitcoin maximalist, they've all the security in place. But you're just trying to give people a solution for where they are. Our service helps you to safeguard your Bitcoin against loss and exchange risk so that you can remove your Bitcoin from exchange. Like let's say someone new starting on Bitcoin, but maybe they have some money and they buy 100 grand. To me, that's a lot of money. And then they have to set up a hardware wallet that they've learned on a YouTube tutorial and then they're going to custody it. Like to me, that's insanity. I'd be like, if it was my money or my Bitcoin, I'd be like, I'll take the exchange risk over you because you know what you're at. Part of the Bitcoin advisor service is inheritance planning. When our client is on board, at the very beginning, we don't wait till they ring us up and say, Dinny, I think I'm going to die next year. It's set up when the client onboards the inheritance planning. So it's all done ahead of time. So that the Bitcoin can always be recovered and passed on to the generations. So the goal is for people to grow their Bitcoin holdings because they feel secure in it and they feel well educated to understand what Bitcoin is, how it works, and why owning more Bitcoin is better than owning less Bitcoin. So just a quick FYI on multi-sig. Single sig, you just have one wallet or one key. And multi-sig, you can have 3 keys. But the problem with multi-sig is the individual is still the single point of failure. And there's no perfect solution with this. Like I think as Bitcoin custody becomes better and better, more solutions, whatever we're doing today, in 5 years' time we'll look and go, geez, there's loads of flaws in that. So it's going to get better and better and better. But with multi-sig, it's your responsibility now to mine 2 keys. So instead of just having to mine 1 private key, now you have to mine 2 of them. Okay? So to me, that's double the complexity. And some people love that. Like a lot of Bitcoin people are very much, I want to control everything. No, I have no hobbies. This is just what I do, and I'm going to put all my time into it. And then other people are just like, yeah, that Bitcoin thing, I'll have some of that, and I want to get on with my life. So they want a simple solution. So they're like, keys, 2 keys, words. What do I do with them? Upgrade. I have to update them and all this stuff. Nah, fuck that. But with multi-sig, you have 2 keys to mind, and then the multi-sig provider, the software provider, will have a backup key within it. And for you to move the Bitcoin out of the vault or the wallet or you need 2 signatures. So it means you can sort of have a catastrophe with one of them and you're still okay. But you are mining 2, unless you give it to your friend to mine, which some people do. That wouldn't make sense to me. So anyway, how the collaborative multi-sig works, it's super straightforward. You have responsibility for only 1 key. You only have to look after 1 key. If it becomes lost or stolen or compromised, you can't lose your Bitcoin. So in the instance where I get phone calls and someone's being phished or hacked and have lost all their Bitcoin, and sometimes it's a hell of a lot of money and their wife or husband doesn't even know they put it into it, and I worry about these. Sometimes I've spent over an hour on calls to people, strangers, because I know this is possibly the worst day in that person's life, and they rang me for the news thinking I could fix the problem, and I've just explained that problem's not fixable. However, with this situation, that can't happen because you have a firewall. You've got to go through an expert to co-sign the transaction. And many times we've had to say to our clients, no, we don't think we should sign that. We want some more information. This sounds like a total scam. And lo and behold, it does be. So you get that protection by putting it through a team of experts to make sure, is this real or is it some sort of a phishing attempt or a phishing scam? And then if you pass away unexpectedly, the inheritance protocol allows your Bitcoin to be recovered by your beneficiaries. So there's no single point of failure. You don't have to trust yourself. You don't have to trust the Bitcoin advisor. The Bitcoin advisor can only sign a transaction. They can't initiate a spend transaction. They can't try and spend your Bitcoin. And depending on the software you use, if it's Unchained or Theia, again, you're the only one with access to the vault, so they can't initiate a spend transaction. They can just okay it or not okay it. And one question is, but can't they just collude? Couldn't the Bitcoin advisor, Peter Dunbert, with 2 billion under management, and let's say Theia, they could collude to steal your 2,000 euros worth of Bitcoin? And the simple answer is it's not possible, because the Theia key is baked into the platform. So it can't be used, and only whoever owns the vault has access to it, to the platform. So it takes out the ability for the Bitcoin advisor and the software provider to have collusion. So ultimately, I don't have to trust the software provider. If I'm using Theia, they can blow up and disappear. The Bitcoin advisor has all the information, so we can migrate you to a different platform. Could a normal person do that? Of course they couldn't. You don't have to trust yourself, even if you lose your key, or you're going through, we see this with separation and assets, and things become messy and people can get rug pulled from their own assets. This again is impossible, you're protected. So no matter what happens to you, no matter what happens to the Bitcoin advisor, no matter what happens to the software provider you use, you don't have a single point of failure. If anything happens to any of the 3 entities, you just step back to where most people live, which is in single sig. And obviously your priority is, we fix this today, and we go back to having that default tolerance built into it. So it's safe generational wealth. Like, Bitcoin is the most important thing in the world, I think. When I'm speaking to people, I'm like, nothing else matters. And that's just because in first principles, it doesn't. Because Bitcoin has its name or figure, I call it 50% capital appreciation per year. By using Bitcoin, storing Bitcoin, saving in Bitcoin, eventually that figure becomes so large that you can't outwork it. And then a company can't outwork it. And then a multinational can't outwork it, because it's growing so fast. So once you have peace of mind to own your Bitcoin, you can't lose your Bitcoin, it sort of allows everyone to have self-custody, because you're not DIYing it, you're not doing it yourself. Many Bitcoiners struggle to get onto a Zoom call. They struggle to find the like button on my video sometimes. I'm like, do the daily exercise. Like, I don't know where it is, Dinny. But yet we're telling them they should get a wallet and get their Bitcoin off the exchanges and try and manage all this. We're setting them up for disaster in a lot of senses. Now, many people can do this, but I see it going wrong, and I've seen it going wrong a lot of times over the last 4 years. That online people probably don't realize happens, but it happens a lot. There's a lot of vulnerable people online, and that's why I think this is a perfect solution. It's safe, easy self-custody for experts and for newcomers. We're specialized to service plebs. This is the beauty of it. It can scale to retail. Now, initially it was just for high net worths, but now we've scaled it so anyone can have it. Business views, we've set up business on it where you have 2 business partners, and neither partner has to trust each other. None of them can rug pull each other the way it's set up, so it's a beautiful setup. It can be set up for family offices and accountants, rather than just trusting your lawyer or your accountant or whatever. Here's my private key. If anything happens to me, make sure you give that to my kids. You have to trust them to do that. With this situation, you don't, because the incentives align. It's a white glove service. You get peace of mind, and there's a clear fee structure. The fee structure is 1% a year. So if Bitcoin capital appreciates at 50%, let's say like last year it went up 50%, well, mine only went up at 49%, but I can't lose it. No matter what I do, I can't screw it up. It's time locked, my Bitcoin. So there's a bit of friction to get at it, but that's the way I like it. That's the way a lot of people want it. They don't want their Bitcoin to be able to be lost. You can't go out for a few pints on a Saturday night and lose your property portfolio because you got drunk, like. You clicked the button or whatever, or you gave some lad a picture or something, but you can do that with your Bitcoin. But you got to I think it's better set up in a way that you can't, and there is friction. And as well as that, it also solves the problem for your private key. Where do you keep it? A lot of Bitcoiners keep their private keys in their homes. I think that's insanity. But then what do you do with it? You put it in a safety deposit box. You have to trust them. What happens if that gets seized? Now your Bitcoin's gone. With a collaborative multi-sig, none of that matters. It takes away all those problems. Sorry, back to the fee structure. My car cost me 2% a year to insure. And it hemorrhages value every year. My Bitcoin cost me 1% a year to insure, and it appreciates in value by 50%. So for me, it's a no-brainer, and I don't mind the fee. I was a customer before I was an advisor because it was a problem that I wanted solved, and then Peter asked me to come on the team and sort of service Ireland and the UK, but we've advisors all over the world. We serve all over the world now. I'll be floating about all conference. I've been keeping the head down for this morning, trying to get everything going, and yourself the little problems, but I'll be more open for chatting and having the crack and catching up with everyone. If anyone's interested in what we do at the Bitcoin Advisor, you can take a picture of that and drop me an email at dinny@thebitcoinadvisor, and we can explain your situation or get you sorted with that. And I think we're going for a bit of lunch now. Thanks everyone for being here and listening to me drone on for a couple of minutes. Dinny out. So we've still got workshops. You can check the agenda, you can check the workshop schedule, you can go get some lunch and have the crack.
What's that?